Good evening, and welcome to one of the most mysterious sleepscapes. Tonight, I'd like to tell you a real story that happened a long time ago when I moved into my grandfather's apartment. My grandfather Joseph was a famous explorer of the Amazonian rainforests. He'd spent most of his life traversing the jungle before he finally retired to Florida to study the local fauna and flora from the comfort of his porch. So, the apartment had been unoccupied for some time, but was by no means empty. I was cleaving my way through the overgrown tropical houseplants and stacks of paper, old jars and bottles, when I found it on the top shelf of the closet. At first, it just looked like a glass bottle, wide, with a narrow opening at the top, and maybe a little moss or lichen inside. But then a glint of water caught my eye. Real water was flowing inside the bottle. I thought, at first, that it was condensation. I rubbed my eyes and looked closer. It was tranquilly cascading over the bare, ragged rocks. Its mysterious fluorescent glow was reflecting in the rocks. As I wiped the dust off the glass, I could make out, rain. It was raining. Inside that bottle was a tiny little ecosystem with its own weather. I leaned in, peering at the tiny, spreading tufts of moss on the rocks. It was so beautiful and unexpected, and despite all the unbelievable stories I heard my grandfather tell, I still couldn't understand how it all worked. One of the first things I noticed were the lilies growing in the water. Incredible. Those bright pink clusters of petals and burnt orange centers. They were like tiny fireworks in the water. I'd never seen lilies like that. These delicate flowers were accompanied by the lily pads serenely sitting on the surface. How calm and still they were, unmoved moved by the circular ripples of raindrops on the surface around them. And stretching out to the side of the bottle was another plant with two large heart-shaped leaves that seemed gigantic compared to the lilies. The little droplets of water glistened in the light, and it was then I noticed that this tiny world was inhabited. It must have been, even though I couldn't actually see any creatures, because signs of life were everywhere. First, it had just seemed like a jumbled mess of moss and stones. But then I noticed three tiny structures standing on the bases of the roots of felled trees. They looked like homes nestled between the rocks, and were definitely cared for. They had a simple platform with circular walls and one small opening. I could see a heartwarming glow coming from the inside. Two houses were decorated with some kind of local manila rope. And each of them was topped with a miniature bamboo roof, perfectly designed to let rain slip right over the buildings. Whoever they were, I guessed that when I left, they'd all come out to sit on those platforms, legs dangling over the edge, watching the rain fall and splash and drip. Every little detail of the place spoke about its serenity and composure. There were pyramids of small, smooth pebbles that were placed either side of the waterfall, framing it and contributing to the sense of tranquility. And the more I explored, the more I discovered in this placid rain garden. Broad like bonsai, the canopies of 2 pocket-sized trees resting on the rocks were shielding the ground below. Think of the most mesmerizing color that you've seen in your life, and it won't even be close to the color of those canopies. Their roots grip the rocks, unmovable, like they'd been there for an eternity. I began to wonder whether it was human-made. Had my grandfather designed this diminutive garden? Had he planted all these tiny shrubs? Even the piece of mossy wood seemed to be placed where it was with divine precision to maintain the peaceful balance of the place. And there was one last thing that had become really obvious. In fact, as soon as I started to really examine the rain garden, it stood out like a sore thumb. At the top of the waterfall sat a majestic temple with a base like the houses, but slightly different. The base was made of stone, carved to look like roots, to be effortlessly blended into the landscape, but still stand out as special, perhaps sacred. The temple had a platform as well, with pillars and windows looking out in all directions. It was almost the same color as those fiery lilies. A graceful vine was winding its way around the base and walls. But the temple wasn't topped with bamboo. It was crowned with a large domed roof. such a fascinating place. If I hadn't been holding that bottle in my hand the whole time, I wouldn't have believed it was real. I was exhausted from the cleaning and decided to take a break. I closed my eyes for what seemed like only a few minutes, but when I awoke, it was dark and the rain garden in the bottle was gone. Later, I convinced myself that it was just a dream. But one stormy night, years later, I fell asleep to rain pattering against my window. And when I woke up, I noticed something by the rug. A single, tiny, vivid lily, almost like a firework. And I remembered the land inside the bottle. So now, as you snuggle into your covers, keep in mind this picture, and maybe the rain garden will appear for you too. Sweet dreams.